What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Serious Angler podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Eigbra, and joined with me is the captain, Mr. Andy Full. Well, looks like up here in New York.
Just real quick, your audio keeps going like in and out. It's kind of funky, but everything's good, man.
My audio's going in now?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, but it was kind of funky. But it's
Are you
good
sure
now.
it's not those janky Apple headphones you got on right now?
I'm positive because the closer you get to your microphone, the better I can hear you.
Yeah, you and your petty self today.
Yeah,
Tell the folks about you had a good day today in the water.
we it's actually been a two really good days. We drove about 2 hours down to a Finger Lake the last 2 days and absolutely blasted brown ones going to look for greenfish and caught a couple big green ones. Andy yesterday got 2 almost 5 pounds, and then today Jeff caught one that was like 4.5, and I got a 6.3 and lost one that was even bigger at the boat on a rattle trap. But yeah, it was fun. We probably put 50 fish in the boat in the last 2 days, and maybe 2 or 3 of them were under 4 pounds.
Sounds like a solid day.
Yeah.
2 days, I should
Yeah.
say. Now, were you saying Andy in the boat with you, or are you talking in third person?
No, Andy Wengender, one of the UB Bassmaster guys. Tyler and Andy hopped on my boat with me yesterday, and we had some fun. And then today I went with the Duke of Hamburg, Jeff Hippert. So
if you really wanted to start annoying people, you should just start talking in third person, as like referring to yourself as the captain.
The captain
is ready to go today.
Hilarious. But I mean, the fishing was so good. Jerk baiting, I developed a blister on my palm. So yeah, it was a good time.
I can't say I've ever gotten a blister on my hand from throwing jerk.
So the one rod I have left that I could throw a jerkbait on is a 7-foot carbon light, and it has that damn wind grip on it. Yeah, and it just like ripped apart my hand. It was not fun.
No, that does not sound fun at all.
But
so we have a comment down here from Bootleg Bass Fishing asking if we're at WrestleMania here because of our background for our studio here. Yeah. And just know that this is not WrestleMania. It's better. Yeah. It looks like it, so this is a very accurate assumption. But no, this is actually the Bassmaster Classic. But this will only be here temporarily because we have a whole new little scene coming in here and some big changes, I should say. Not in terms of what Serious Angler is going to be doing in terms of routine and such, but who's going to be supporting Serious Angler and what we can do to give back to you guys. And that will be announced very soon. And we're pretty excited to let you guys know what that's going to be and, what that's going to mean moving forward. So we're pretty excited for it. It's awesome. That's all I'm going to really leave it to because I don't want to give too much away.
So pumped. But ready for you, follow?
I am. Yeah, we'll probably get into that on Friday's episode because this Friday I depart. I throw the Hobie on top of the dang Nissan Altima, and we're headed south to Alabama to camp out for over a week and fish the Hobie BOS on Lake Eufaula next weekend. So I'm excited for that. But we'll throw it out there for the folks because there's going to be episode 3 and 4, Chasing Hardware, coming from that event. But we'll talk more about that on Friday's episode because we got our boy in the house tonight sitting in the queue, and I'm actually really jealous because he's sitting on one of my favorite lakes in the world where I think a lot of guys would say the polar opposite after their week down there this past week, but he had a dang good week and a damn good day too. Let's bring him in, Mr. Matty Wong. What's going on, dude?
Hey guys, folks at home.
All right, Ike.
Love it.
It's so funny when he does that. I'm just like, yum, 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 yum.
Dude, how's that been? You've been traveling with Ike, haven't you?
Yeah, I have been. Ike's awesome. Sorry, I'm just doing a little bit of arranging. I didn't know that the light wasn't so great. My nerdy self has to make sure you guys got the goodness.
Well, left or right side is like the female way. Like you got to get a good picture side. So is it left or right?
Yeah, no, you just do like that high center beauty light. Just make it look all good. Yeah,
and you don't put that on women. That's just you. That's how you are.
No,
you take
not
a
at all.
Picture of Andy, and he's like, "Sorry, you got to get the left side." The left side.
Never. I think all my fish picks are the right side.
Andy's diva for his profile pics.
That's right. That's right. Andy, we have to live with that. We don't have a good side.
That is true.
Yes.
Oh, man.
The only guy that's got a good side is this guy down here, Mr. Hollywood gone Bassmaster rookie.
Oh man. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. It's been
Appreciate
cool.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you brought us to the amazing Lake Chickamauga behind you that
I did.
I'm extremely jealous by.
For all
You're
the
gonna make them change the lighting again, Bailey. Come on.
the fish friends, all my fish friends in the internet lands. I am on Lake Chickamauga, literally less than a quarter mile away from where we blasted off. So it's kind of cool to look down and look on the water where I feel like was my office the past week or so, and kind of reflect. And it's been especially nice to be able to kind of reflect, because every single tournament up until now, there hasn't been too much reflection, just because you have to go right into the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks, Jim. I feel like it's nice to be able to decompress and reflect. And whether you did well or you did bad, there's things to reflect on. And that's something that I've been missing in my routine. I think it's hard to get that time, like even when you're driving or going from tournament to tournament, and like, you're talking to people on the phone and whatnot. Sometimes it's hard just to get time to yourself to be able to soak some stuff in and to think about your decisions or think about things that maybe you didn't do or what you would have tried. But either way, it was my first time here in Chickamauga, and it's a beautiful, beautiful fishery. Super pressured one, but there's definitely some good bass in here. But I'm stoked that it gets to be my background for tonight.
Heck yeah. I mean, if you're game to talk about it, like what kind of things did you conclude on, what things you would have done different?
I think that it's tough because the weather that we had was so bipolar, going from a warm day of rain and wind to a cold day of rain, wind, and snow to a post-frontal bluebird sky day. And, I had a warm practice, and I knew that the cold front was going to push in. I just didn't know that it was going to kind of like pull them out from where I was finding them. Hold for the boat.
Screaming by.
Hey, we're trying to film the podcast up here. What do you think this is? Chickamauga?
That's amazing.
Yeah, so this place is really cool because some of the spots that I found I didn't know. Like I found this stretch that it just looked good, and I fished it, and then after the fact, the tournament's like, oh yeah, that's where Aaron Martin's caught like a 6, on a drop shot back in like the 2004, or like just drop some knowledge on me. I'm like, oh, that's rad. I think that's kind of neat. But back to the question, what would I have done differently? I think I would have spent a little bit more time graphing. I think that that's something that I don't do enough. But it's something that I need to start including into the game. I feel like on day 2, when I ended up having a good bag, is when I was able to just fish my intuition. But day 1, I was relying a little bit on the graph. I lost a key fish that really would have helped me. I learned a valuable lesson. Don't try to boat flip a 3-pounder with 12-pound test after not retying. You also get in the moment and you can't help it. And it's just, I feel like everyone does it. And as much as you want to correct those silly mistakes, I think at the end of the day, we're all anglers and we all get excited and in the moment and sometimes make the wrong decision, like try to boat flip a fish that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I would have done differently. Graphing is something I would have maybe spent a little bit more time doing on one of the days, I think. But all in all, I think it was a location area, and it was a certain thing that I had to look for and find. And it's not like rocket science or anything like that. It was just certain combinations that are perfect for this time of year. Deep water, close to spawning pockets that have great transitioning cover, and great ambush points, especially when you're throwing a bigger size bait. But I mean, even Carl had a pretty rough day on the last day, where it was just the bite just shut off. And I think when we had like a pretty solid window when they were eating the bigger bait really well, and it was when it was pretty miserable out, which is it's pretty, I would say it's pretty textbook, the conditions that we had for when they want to eat the swim bait, but not to say they won't eat it when it's sunny out and whatnot, because in practice it was sunny out and I was definitely catching them. And there was enough clues around that led me to think that it was going to be a bite that was going to stick around regardless of what the weather was doing. And so that's what I shifted to that game plan on day 2, because after day 1, the other 2 guys that were in the cove that I was rotating, they all weighed 13 pounds. And I would have had 14 if I didn't lose that 3. And then I also would have had a little bit more weight, 1 more pound more, because I ended up weighing or bringing a fish to the scale that was just short of 15 inches. And I made the big mistake of not re-measuring that fish. And that costed me again another top 10. So that was a valuable lesson there. Something that I would definitely do again is if I get a line burner, even after checking in, this is just something it just kind of blew my mind, that you can actually dump a fish when you get to the ramp. As long as you don't make a cull, you can throw a fish out and not put it in the bag. So I would have double, triple checked one of the line burners that I had, but it ended up costing me a pound. But these are just all learning experiences and whatnot. But either way, it was a blast, man. I'm stoked that I was able to get a camera on the boat again, and and got to hold a couple big fat fish.
Heck yeah, you did.
Never a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're getting the kinks out now and still cashing checks while you're getting the kinks out, so you can't exactly argue with that.
Yeah, man, I'm super grateful. I got 3 checks this year so far, and then a little bonus check for getting that big bag. So I can't complain, man. I'm pretty happy. I just need to keep this momentum going and hopefully be able to maybe re-qualify for the Classic if I'm able to turn my year around. But we'll see. You never know. I think I'm sitting like 65th or 67th right now in the points. But I made a big move from like the 80s, so that was much needed.
Yeah. Keep grinding, dude. I mean, it's still a long season ahead, so anything can happen, obviously. So just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, sounds like for your rookie season, you're learning a lot. You're not doing bad. I mean, I'm sure you're not doing as good as you want to be. But it also kind of helps that one, you're coming into this fresh rookie season. You're obviously receptive of all the lessons you're learning here, versus just being negative about a bad day on the water and not actually thinking of why it was a bad day. And probably also helps that you're learning from one of the legends in the sport. Riding with you.
Sorry, I got like it's a 2-stroke tracker.
Oh my god!
Open carb, just like, and he's only going 10 miles per hour. This is a good
I was going to say, he's taking his time, it sounds like.
You hear it before you see it.
Oh my god!
I think I could pedal faster than that guy.
We're trying to film a podcast up here, guys. Come on. Come on. Don't you see me on Serious Angler? I'm trying to be serious. Man, I thought everyone was friendly. Just some people can be so inconsiderate.
You know what they say about people and trackers? I don't actually know what they say, but
what are they? No, okay.
I have no idea.
We got a bit distracted. Yeah, I am grateful for how well I'm doing so far. I mean, obviously, being a competitive person, I want to be doing better, and I do keep the bar high for myself, and I think that's the only way to stay hungry in it. But I did beat Brandon Polinick in ping pong the other day, and so that felt really good, and he was really bummed about it. So that was great.
Is that going to be like top of the list on your resume and your media kit? It's just like,
oh, for sure.
Brandon Polinick at ping pong.
Beat PP in ping pong twice, and like you
should just headline it. I've never lost to Brandon Polinick, and at the bottom of the page, put at ping pong.
In ping pong. Carl Jochimson whooped my ass. Dude, like Carl's legit, dude. Like
at ping pong.
He's legit at ping pong. Great bass fisherman, but like even better ping pong player. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, they probably get bored in Australia. Everything's trying to kill them, so they're probably playing ping pong with like big ass spiders and stuff. So they're just,
dude, it's wild. He's like, my dad never let me. I'm gonna try and do it like Carl. And he's like, yeah, my dad, he never let me win a single game of ping pong until I turned 18, and then I won, and then that was like the day I became a man.
That was actually really good.
Yeah, you spend a week with them, it kind of rubs off on you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, we had a great time up there. It was a lot of fun, and got to stay with Gussie, and it's just nice when you get camaraderie, because I feel like the past, like even I got to stay with Ike and I have been getting close, which has been really cool. But it's, it's hard when you have certain tournaments where you're kind of by yourself. Like Cherokee, I had a couple buddies out that flew into town to fish it as co's, but leading up to it for practice and a couple other things, you're just all alone. And I think that's the part that a lot of people don't see when it comes to doing competitive fishing for a living, is that you have a lot of time to yourself, and it's a good thing and a bad thing, because I think humans we're naturally social creatures, so we want to be able to have camaraderie and hang out, and but when it's just, sometimes you just don't get that, and it definitely kind of weighs on you, because it's nice to be able to like hang with some guys and like drink a beer, or just like be able to shoot the crap about your day on the water and be able to bounce ideas off, and even where just having one other person to talk to is a huge thing for morale. But yeah,
it sounds like it just helps you mentally kind of walk through how you're going to approach the tournament.
Yeah. It's how I approach this tournament.
Like, so what I'm saying is, like, if you're on your own and you're thinking to yourself, I'm sure you can obviously call somebody up, but like when you're staying with somebody, it sounds like you can use them as almost like a form of feedback to kind of bounce, how you're approaching that tournament.
100%. And everyone on tour works together. If anyone says that they're like, nope, I don't talk to anyone, they're lying, because everyone talks to each other. Whether the circles are 3 to 5 guys or the circles are 2 guys, everyone calls each other. And when you're a rookie, you have no one to call until you start to meet people and start to, develop relationships. And, there's certain guys that are really to themselves, like Jason Christie is pretty to himself, but he also has years and years and years of experience fishing professionally. And then he also talks to some guys as well. So, people will bounce around like, hey, where'd you find, like, what was your water temp that you found in the back of that creek? Oh, I saw this. Oh, like, what'd you get them on today? And like, for me, like talking with Ike, or talking with, like, when I was talking with like Gussie and them, like, I'll just tell them, like, look, I got 2 bites on a shaky head. I got a bite on this. I got a bite on this. And this is what I was doing. This is the water temp I found. I'm like, great, man. Like, this is what we found. And so you're able to put together a little bit more pieces, because we have 3 days. to break apart a giant body of water. And in 3 days, there's so much that you can there's so many options that you can do until you have kind of like narrowed in like what you feel like is going to be the winning technique, and then how do you break it down. So it's not like I'm asking like, hey, what area are you at, like, or I'm not saying like, oh yeah, I caught a ton in like this cut. There's certain things that you're like, you obviously, I think there's a mutual respect on like, okay, that's the water you found, and obviously like, that's your spot and whatnot, and then like this is what you're doing. And I think that definitely helps when you're breaking down a new body of water, and it really helps to kind of develop a game plan. I mean, because you can have a great practice and catch some good fish, but then you can go out the next day and like catch one or two like that. I mean, the guys, it was a struggle. Like during practice, we were all struggling. I had one day where I had 10 keeper bites. The first day I had 2 keeper bites, and then the last day, this is dark to dark, I had 5 keepers, and it just wasn't fishing, incredible. And so when the don't let the weights fool you on how easy or whatnot like the place was, because it was definitely a grind. But it did help having some other people to be able to bounce some ideas off of.
Heck yeah.
I like that too, because you don't hear about it that much about how everybody talks. You always hear about like the little cliques and the people who room together. But it's kind of cool that as a rookie on the tour, right, people are kind of allowing you to come into like their circle and chat, which is awesome too, because it shows that it's such a great big brotherhood, and everybody's there to help everybody to a point. So, and traveling alone is never fun.
No, I'm about to do that in Alabama, and that'll be interesting. See how stir crazy I go, even though it's just a week. Probably call him. He's gonna be sick of me when I call him like 5 times a day. Just like, hey, what do you need? Nothing. Hey,
what are you wearing?
I'm stuck on a rock again, but we won't go there.
Yeah, that's a story for another day. We'll tell the story eventually, but we gotta shape it up for the folks to do it right. But Matty, so tonight's show, obviously, for the folks tuning in, we wanted to get into each of our top 5 baits that we like, just around that springtime. It doesn't have to be, regional based, but just kind of like what our go-tos are when spring's around the corner. Really fast. One of our mutual buddies here is in the chat tonight, and he's asking where you think he should pick you for Drain the Lake, Mr. Rich Lindgren from Hellabass.
Hi, Rich. Yeah, I team suck less. I love Rich is the man. To be honest, I'm not even sure what this is, how consumed I am in the actual fishing that I don't even know what the Drain the Lake thing is.
It's
dude. And I'm sure I'm gonna get crap for this. This is probably like something that I should know, but it's something I don't.
I don't think anyone will care that you don't know what it is, except for Ronnie Moore will probably call you and be mad because it's part of fantasy fishing.
Ronnie's just overly competitive at fantasy. That's
he is. He is, but in the best way.
Yeah,
I think you're just asking what lake do you feel most confident in for the rest of the season to pick you for Drain the Lake?
Got it. Well,
wherever that guy's going.
Hey, dude, where should I do Drain the Lake? Hellabass wants to know.
I love this, by the way. It's hilarious.
No, I'm getting my feedback tonight. I'm actually not picking my baits. I'm letting the folks at home, the folks on the lake, pick the baits for me. No, out of the rest of the places that we got, I'm really excited about. I want to say 3 of them. The other 2, I'm not entirely sure, and they can go either way. So I would say Lake Fork then I would say Oahe because they're smallmouth, and then St. Lawrence because it's also smallmouth, and I can also fish kind of shallow there for smallies, which I love to do. But Lake Fork is like where there's giants, and like that could be really, really fun. So I mean, I don't know. I don't want to like put myself in like this like in a thing, and then they'd be like, I get a DM from Rich, be like, "You suck, dude. You cost me a bunch of points."
He'd probably do that, to be honest, too.
No, he would
in a joking way. Yeah,
yeah.
He'll just
And then
message
he'd
you
tell
saying,
me,
I told you to suck less.
yeah. I told you suck less, and then where's your corduroy? That's all I get. That's all I get from Rich.
That's funny.
No,
Oh
Rich is
man,
amazing. He's a good dude.
yeah. He said he had you penciled in for Hawaii.
Oh, really? All
Yeah.
right, cool. I'll take it.
nice.
All right, boys. It's time to dive into the baits here. You know, the first thing we're gonna pick up, pick up off the deck and obviously cast for when it's spring. What's that first bait you're gonna go to, regardless of where you are, but it's just spring fishing. Matty, because you are our guest tonight, you can lead the way. First thing you're picking up.
Are we fun fishing? Are we pre-fishing? Are we in a tournament?
Ooh.
Let's go fun fishing. Let's go fun fishing.
Fun fishing. Okay.
Yep.
And then are we doing? This is all lakes. Are we doing ponds, rivers, Highland Reservoir, grass impoundments?
Whatever you want.
This is going to be like a 5-hour episode. If we do that.
All right, we want 5 of each for each style of body of water. All right.
So I would say off the bat during the spring, which means basically pre-spawn and post. For fun fishing, I'd probably have like some type of vibrating jig on. Freedom Baits makes this really cool wobble head style of vibrating jig, and you can actually change the hook out. I started experimenting with it on Cherokee, and I caught a couple really solid fish on it, and I caught a couple fish on it here too that helped me. It just gives a different vibration off than like everyone and their mom throwing a jackhammer, and it's a solid bait. It's made by Z-Man, but it's designed by Freedom Jigs, and I would say that would be probably like a pretty good go-to if I'm like fun fishing, just trying to locate some fish, whether they're small ones, because the little guys will eat it and the bigger ones will eat it too. The one thing about a vibrating jig, it is a big fish bait, and it is a like cover water bait as well. And the cool thing I like about it is that with a swivel style head it's almost like a football shape style head, it actually stays down deeper when you're slow rolling it, and you're actually able to keep a pretty good bottom contact with it. So fish it a little bit deeper, fish it a little different than everyone burning a 3/8 ounce jackhammer around, just giving fish a different look. And it does do pretty good through grass and whatnot. So that's
is it the Freedom CFL? Is that what it's called?
I think so.
Okay. I'll find it and I'll put it up on the screen for folks. You keep talking, man.
Yeah. And then what I do is I'll pair that up with a couple different trailers, but one of my favorite trailers to do on like a chatterbait, vibrating big jig style bait is a Hazadong. But then on the Hazadong, I'll take the boot tail and then I'll fold it back and I'll trim it so it comes to a point. And so it's no longer a boot tail, but just a tiny little wiggly point. And it's great because it has the detail of an eye, the body shape has a great bait fish profile, and the plastic's nice and soft where it gives it really good tail action when swimming around.
Is this it?
Yep, that's it. That's the one.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, it's a sleeper bait that not a lot of guys talk about. I also really like how it's kind of trim finesse, like the skirt's kind of trim finesse wise. So that's just another thing. It's actually kind of similar to how I would trim some of my jackhammers up, especially my bluegill baits. I will trim a good amount of that skirt down almost to the bend of the hook. So you actually condense the size and that profile of the bait. So
it's a great tip.
That's mine.
Yeah, that thing's interesting.
Have you tried that, Andy?
I have not, but I've never even heard of it, to be honest. Like,
yeah, it's a sleeper bait. Yeah. You're welcome.
That's cool. Like,
To Matty to expose that. He's
Yeah.
like swimming Carolina rigs to chatterbaits that have been out for a while that no one's even tried yet.
Well, because the thing is with that jig, it got released right. I think it was it got released right before the jackhammer. So when the jackhammer hit the market, it ended up getting a lot more press because of Mr. Height, and yeah, the rest is history. But yeah, that's why it's. I think on tour, everyone throws. It's not like there's a secret bait out there, but there's certain variations of the same bait that may or may not give certain guys confidence, and that's something that I've been enjoying. And it has a bunch of great little colors and whatnot. Yeah,
I could see it being really good over rock. Like,
yes, yeah. A lot of guys up north for smallmouth will slow creep the 3/4 ounce. I was doing that on Cherokee, and I was catching like giant hybrid bass with it, and also good smallmouth because it gets through rocks really well, and it doesn't get head hung too often, which is great. Yeah,
I'm gonna give those a shot.
Yeah, me too. Because I'm already like envisioning like 4 or 5 spots. I'm like, oh, it would work really good there.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Yeah,
of course. Now I gotta spend more money.
Yeah.
This is what the show is all about, to make people spend money.
Does Omnia have those, Bailey?
Let's see. I don't believe they do. Andy, take it away. What's your first pick?
It depends. So I'm gonna go and I mean, it's something that you've kind of awoken my eyes to, slowly swimming it, but I used to drag it a lot for smallmouth, so I'm gonna go with the little boot tail swimmer. It just catches a lot of fish. I like to drag them more than I like to cast and retrieve them, as to where I know Bailey is a big time slow tick the bottom type guy, but yeah, I knew he would have it, so I was like, I don't know what to go with first, but I couldn't say a jackhammer first. So this is I like a Kitech, and I've been experimenting with this new cast swim bait, and it has a glass rattle on the inside of it. I can pull it out here. Yeah, it's a sneaky little thing, and it's caught a couple 4-pounders the last few days, and that's inserted right inside the head. They're
awesome,
and they're really durable.
Did you get a chance to actually see how that new little swim bait swim? Like, does it roll pretty well, like on a straight swim, or does it?
Yeah, it wobbles, and the tail kick was what is most important to me because it has a big heart-shaped tail to it. As soon as it hits the water, it starts pulsing, and that's super important in cold water. It went fish for fish with a Kitech. So, yeah, I was very impressed.
That's good.
Ooh.
Yeah, that would be an interesting bait to like, kind of like similar to. I don't have it with me, but the Queen Tackle Hammerhead that's got the tungsten rattles inside the jig head to kind of keep in place to see if you can kind of trigger any bites, like a little swim bait on bottom that's making noise. It could be interesting.
Yeah. So sorry to drop in on you. There's another head that looks like the vibrating jig head from Freedom, but it's just a football head that has a brass insert and a hook that you can change out. And so it actually makes a high-pitched vibrating ting, which is just a different sound. So something also that you guys might want to try when you're like with a swim bait, because you can you can change out the hook and customize it, and then 2, it comes over rock super well, and every single time it hits the rock, when it deflects, it puts out a different sound than just a solid lead head or tungsten head ball. But go on, my bad. Continue.
No, you're good. I want to figure out what that is, because that sounds really intriguing, actually. Because you can swap. So is it like a ring, like a ringed piece that you can swap out the hook, or how does?
Yeah, the head itself on it actually, and on the CFL jig too. That it's like a pigtail inside of the head, and so the way that you go around in a circle, then you can pull the hook out. But if there's tension on the hook, there's no way it's going to come out because it has to do a full turn and then come out.
Okay.
But yeah, tricky.
That's sick. Heck yeah. I'm gonna have to. We're gonna pick your brain some more. You know what? We need to do like a. We're gonna send you undercover. We'll pay you on the side and send you undercover. We'll have you wired and bugged and everything to like get the scoop of what pros are actually throwing versus what they're saying. Like
what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I love it when you watch live and they're catching on one thing and then you see the pictures afterwards and it's like something completely different. And I'm like, liar.
Yeah, we're gonna call it Matty Wong exposed.
Exposed. You're like, Mom, it's not what you think it is. I promise. It's a show about fishing.
Oh
gosh, that's good. All right, so
let me for it. I had to go and knock that down. Sorry.
Yeah, I love it. So to obviously not be repetitive here with Andy, I also have a swim bait on there, but what I have is a football head that actually Andy poured with Do It molds. And it has an owner 5313 hook on it. So not to give the same spiel that Andy just gave, but the reason I like a football head over like a simple ball head that a lot of guys like is because I like to tick that thing on bottom. And I feel like a football head comes through all sorts of cover way better than a ball head would. Especially if you're from the north or even like say Matty on some of the bluff walls on Chickamauga, that sorts. I see he's resorted to muting himself while the boats go by. You can see the headlights. But
we're trying to film seriously. I don't care about your bow fishing adventures. Share the information for the people.
That's good. Yeah, so I don't want to go too far into it because it's pretty straightforward, but I like a football head a lot, like 9 times out of 10 over a simple ball head, especially if I'm keeping it on bottom versus, if I'm keeping it up, obviously a ball head just because it's simple. But with that, being that mine was very quick here, I will roll into my second bait, which is another bladed jig to hop on top of Matty's selection. And that is one that is started to take off a little bit. Some people are starting to use it. And that is the Queen Tackle tungsten switchblade. And that's one that I'm liking and I'm really digging. The only downside to it is you can't use like big bulky trailers. So like a Seiko is perfect, or like that Big Bite Swim On is perfect. Things that more have that slender profile to it, but it's tungsten. And it's got a really different blade to it. They also make the actual switchblade, like the blade itself, that you can add to any vertical tying jig head. But it's something completely different. Tungsten, obviously, as Matty mentioned, makes a completely different noise.
Quick note on that switchblade too is I think they have 2 different blade sizes, if I remember correctly, in 3 different colors. So you can go, it was a black, silver, and gold, Bailey, for blades.
2 different sizes too. Yeah.
And it's on the back of it, you can just quickly change out your blade while you're right on the water.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Trippy.
Yeah. And it works.
Yeah. It looks good.
Jim Johnson here is saying, careful, Matty. After a dark on chick, you might start hearing banjos.
Just paddle faster.
Paddle faster.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that is hilarious.
All right, Matty, what's your second pick here?
Well, I would have to say a glide bait. Yeah, I would have to say a glide bait. Depending on what I'm doing, whether it's pre-fish or in a tournament, a glide is always going to be tied on. There's certain scenarios that it's not something that I'm like constantly throwing all day because there's times where it's just not the bait to throw, but then there's other times it is the bait to throw. And it really helped me a lot this week, get some of the weight in the boat. And it's one of those tools where once you learn it and apply it and have seen it in action, you understand its place. But it does take some time and a lot of dedication to be able to get confident enough and to throw it into high pressure situations. I honestly thought that it was going to be a giant player this week because of the amount of people that aren't comfortable throwing it during a tournament situation. Because it is a kind of a low percentage bait when they do eat it. It's not, not putting every single one in the boat, and if you do, you're having a great day. And that's just part of the game. You can also, you live by the sword and you also die by it. But
hero or zero.
Yeah. And it's a tool that has multiple different layers. And when I say that, it has a searching bait kind of appeal to it, where you can cover a lot of water and you can look and draw out fish, whether or not if they're bass, or if they're like even bluegill will follow the thing, and crappie, or certain times you can kind of see what other forage is in the area. Two, you can fish it around cover, whether it's docks, whether it's laydowns, whether it's rock piles. So you're also utilizing that as another time to draw out other fish or anything else from those ambush areas. And then the third is, you're presenting something that those fish are instinctively programmed to kill. So you're turning a switch in those fish that is, it's like a deer in a headlight scenario, where if they're pre-spawn, or even if they're post-spawn, and especially post-spawn, because they actually start committing to the bait a lot more, is, oh, look at that meal, that thing needs to die. And especially if there's large forage on your body of water, like gizzard, shad, or big threadfin, it's just something that they're going to be keeping an eye out. And this week, I think touching back on, I think the last time that I was on, I was talking about, just being aware of your environment and like looking around and seeing what the nature will give you as little clues.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing a ton of 6 to 8 inch gizzard shad, kind of just roaming up shallow. And it kind of made me think. So I would have to say a glide bait. The 185, that's the iSlide 185, is a good glide. It's, for me, I can make that glide suspend a lot better than most. It actually floats out of the package, and so something that I'll give to the folks at home, a little hack, is use suspend dots, and you can actually suspend out that swim bait, making it an incredible cover bait. And the hook hangers, underneath the hook hangers, there's a built-in magnet. So that color itself is especially good. I've caught numerous 7-pounders on that thing. The 262, I think it's a great bait during pre-fish for me, because it's a large bait. If you have clarity that's like 5 feet or more, it has a lot of drawing power. And so when you're trying to locate some big stuff, like that's a great bait to use. But for me, during tournament, it's going to be an iSlide, or it's going to be a certain, or it's going to be another glide bait that's around that same profile and size. It's just everything from literally a 2-pound bass will eat it, all the way up to a 10-pound bass. And it's fun, because you get to watch it. It's whenever you get to watch a bait get engulfed by something, it just makes it that much more entertaining. Like, that's why frog fishing is so fun.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching a frog. And that's another technique. I was talking to Davey Height, and he said, it's funny that the swim bait is the hero or zero thing. That's what we used to think about with the frog. And I would say, a frog's just another tool, just like anything else, just like a drop shot. Yep. And so I think, for them to say the hero or zero thing with the swim bait, it's like, no, it's just a tool, just like a frog or a drop shot. You just got to know when to apply it, and then also how to execute when you do get the right bite. Because, a lot of people end up losing the fish because of mechanics.
Yeah.
And they try to play the fish too long, or they're not using the right style of rod, they're not using the right equipment, and then they lose the fish, and they're like, well, swim baiting sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, it's it does take some time. It does take some frustration. There's definitely a learning curve. It's not like, here, go and grab that thing and go throw it around. You're going to catch a whole bunch of bass. It's like, no, go grab that thing, throw it around for 3 weeks. You might get a bite. And so but when it does, come together, it definitely does work out. Sean Lai, what's up, bro? He said, I'm trying to like read the comments too,
Thanks. That chick.
Yeah.
Said he was rooting for you.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, no, during the event, I definitely was throwing. I had 2 different glides, and then I had the mag draft on deck for me. And I would take it out and show you how like mauled out that thing is, but it's completely packed up with a whole bunch of crap on top of it. So my apologies, but
you're fine.
the rod that I was using a rod called a Mark 48, and that is a destroyer, Mega Bass destroyer rod. And for me, the Mark 48 is a crucial piece of equipment because, one, it has just enough tip action where you have like a nice moderate to soft tip where you can really get some good twitches out of the bait. And then also when you go to like pitch or throw the bait around, it's great. But then also when you go and set the hook, it bends enough and then it shuts off, and it's a really the action's a lot faster there. But yeah, that's what I was using, and that is my bait number dos.
Real quick before we move on to Andy, are you a mono fluoro braid guy when it comes to glides?
Good question.
Yeah, so I would say if I'm fishing around rock and I'm fishing around trees, I'll say I'm gonna use straight fluoro.
Okay.
I'm gonna most of the time I'm gonna use 20 to 25 ish sometimes, but that's like if there's giant striper around and I don't want to lose a bait. But typically 20 to 22 pound sunline shooter is what I use. It's extremely vibration resistant. It doesn't hold too much memory. It casts really well. It's just a sturdy line. I have a lot of faith in it. But like, let's say like you're throwing a wake bait, you want to use kind of like I would say like 20 pound mono or something like that. Or braid to a short fluorocarbon leader. Or if you're fishing in grass, then you do like 80 pound or 60 pound braid to a 25 pound leader, just because you're able to turn the fish's head and get them out a little bit quicker. So having a lot of treble hooks around grass, they usually can dig you in there and you can get screwed.
In trouble fast, yeah.
In a hurry, yeah.
We have a comment here that says, Google says you're a male model. Ask him to play your saxophone. From Jonathan. I believe he's out from Cali, actually.
Jonathan, that I don't know if people can afford that version of Matty.
Oh, no.
It's my OnlyFins.
Yeah, quite literally Matty Wong exposed.
No, I've had numerous different fun gigs in my life, and I'm super grateful to have. I had a little modeling career for a bit. Did like J. Crew and a bunch of other stuff for a few years, and then I did play the saxophone professionally for 8 years as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's
So Lee Livesey has a sponsor of Whiskey Myers. When is Jamie Foxx going to be your title sponsor for
Oh man, I better hit up Jamie and be like, hey dude, you wanna I don't know, that'd be pretty funny. Whiskey Myers.
I mean, dude, if you had Jamie Foxx come out with you on the classic stage, it'd be kind of steal the show more than you did this past year.
Oh man. Yeah, Mercer would definitely lose his shit if that was the case. But no, it's awesome trip.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Well,
Jonathan, for reminding everyone.
yeah. Seem thrilled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, let's keep rolling here with baits. Andy, what's your third? Or sorry,
My second. Yeah, second. Yeah, we're slowly moving here. But that's all right. When the water gets to about 43, 44 degrees on Lake Erie, my favorite thing to go to is the Fish Sense Binsky in a blade bait. It's not a numbers deal. You can drag around a swim bait all day and catch a lot of fish. This catches a lot of big ones. And I'm not a caster. I am vertically jigging. And I can only get them to go when I can tell how active they are on my 2D. So there's
question for you.
Yeah.
Are you doing drifts?
Yeah, so like it depends. It depends on the day. So a lot of times on guide trips and stuff, we are drifting because we can cover a lot more water, and I will rip a blade up and down just to try and fire up schools of fish.
Yeah.
But if it's slick calm, I've also found based on how they're positioned on the 2D, if I go straight up and down underneath the boat with like a half-ounce Binsky, I can get those fish to refire when they slack off based on the way they're positioned in the water column.
Yeah. And you would say like if they're closer to the bottom that they're more neutral feeders, and like if they're raised up that they would be more active?
Yeah. So quick tip, when I fish Erie, I always zoom in like the bottom 20 feet, maybe even 15 feet of my 2D graph, because that's where the smallmouth lives most of the time, is on the bottom, especially when the water is really cold. And if they're tight to the bottom when I'm zoomed in, then I have to drag something. But if I get them a foot off the bottom, they're actively feeding, in my opinion, and that's when I can get them to drop the blade. You can actually watch it on your 2D on a slick day, like a slick calm day. As that blade is falling, you can watch them come up slightly and then track it back down to the bottom. So it's fun. 10-pound test on a bait caster, straight fluoro, just rip it on them.
That's cool. That's really fascinating for me, because that's something that I don't have too much experience doing. Like I've probably caught like a handful of blade bait fish, and it's usually like either casting it up to like rock bluffs and like ripping it off and not really fishing it too vertically. I did find out about the gay blade recently, which is a trippy sleeper old school bait, and I thought was only just like a funny name for a bait, but then it was like my buddy's like, oh no, the gay blade's a thing, and like showed him like, oh my gosh, and the thing gets smacked. But yeah, interesting. That's cool. And
yeah, I mean, I think a great way to how Andy likes to fish it, and he's really effective with it. Like even for salt, where you're just simply jigging, that sort of deal. I mean, that's pretty much the same thing. So I think, Andy, you like to really snap that thing.
Yeah, I'll snap it hard and then come back down on a slack line, and then I'll pop, like just kind of like pump it a couple times, and I'll give it a hard rip. And I just want to see how they react to it. If they start rising, I know they're going to eat it, but it's very situational. Like I'll rip it for like 30 seconds, and if they don't fire, I put it right down. But if I get them to chase, then I'll get them.
And then do you let's say you get one on the blade, do you drop the blade back down and then just keep hammering away, or do you pick up like a tamiki and then like?
Well, usually I just keep ripping away on a blade because I've got them fired, and then once they shut off, then I'll like drop a heavy Ned rig on them or a swim bait and drag on them some more.
Okay, yeah, that's just all fascinating. Learning just because you're like, in the spring, 40-degree water temps. I'm like, that's the middle of winter in California.
I think I caught, I don't remember the exact how many, but I probably got 5 upper 5 fish, like almost 6 pounds, and I got 4 over 6 last spring on a blade. Just sitting there ripping it. Yeah.
Wow.
And I might throw it for like 30 minutes a day. It's just very situational. Like if the school shuts off on the dragon baits, I'm like, oh, let's see if we can get them refired. And that's usually when I'll snap the biggest one in the school. And I'm like, sorry, guys, I feel really bad about that.
Yeah. Like, sorry, not sorry. Yeah. I just caught a 6-pounder. Here you guys wear on the threes.
Yeah.
Make sure I get a tip.
Like, but yeah, it's like my favorite guide bait to fish, because I can refire up fish if they shut off usually with it for a couple more bites before we have to move on.
It's just a really fun bite too.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get on it, you don't want to switch because it's just so much fun to do.
It's like
Yeah.
rip,
Like
and then you go to pop, and your rod just like goes into the water. Yeah, because they smash it.
It's like a jerk bait when you go to like snap and it's already there and it locks on. It's pretty similar to that.
But instead, you're going straight up, and the rod just doubles over and like falls out of your hand because it's a 6-pounder half the time, so it's like lifting into a bunch of bricks.
That's awesome.
But it's really fun when you do it, and it's like sub-freezing temperatures, and your wrists are locked up, and you go to like set the hook, and you're just like using your whole body because you can't move your wrist because you're too dang cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Chopping it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, to keep that rolling, one bait that actually, I mean, this is not just spring, but I have the most fun with it in the spring, but one I'll throw all year round. One, it'll look like just a football jig. But it's the Queen Tackle Finesse Football Jig. And I think this has kind of been a recent trend for a lot of people, but it's not very big. Like it's not your standard football jig. Where Queen makes like the big hammerhead. This is like a very finesse football style, very like tiny, kind of almost like your micro craw football jig. That's what I really like to go to because it's got a lighter wire too, especially when water temps are colder and their mouths are a little bit thicker. That seems that lighter wire can get through easier because you can throw it on lighter line, lighten up on the rod, and usually when you have those fish pinned, they're not coming off at all. But that's one I'll throw too. Like when people are fishing, smallmouth herbs, and they're throwing bigger football jigs throughout the year. I like to downsize to a little football jig, or even bring that through some grass.
I jammed one today on it.
Is that a Ned on there?
It is. Yeah.
Is that a 5/16 or is that
3/8?
This is a 3/8. This is the heaviest one to make. But they do. What are the other sizes? They make a quarter and what else?
I believe it's just a quarter and 3/8 in the peanut finesse. Okay. Yeah.
You double check with you here.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with this jig company to put out a little finesse jig. I think that's a huge key bait because there's a lot of craws, especially as the water temp starts to warm up. And
here's a little tip for you, Matty. Even in 33-degree temperature, they'll eat crawfish because the crawfish don't hibernate.
Huh.
I walk steelhead streams all winter and find crawfish out and about.
In 30-degree water?
32-degree water with slush flowing down it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, was it in end of December? I think it was like 18 degrees out, and I kicked over a rock and a crayfish scurried out. And I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder if it's I think obviously it's area dependent, but then if there's a certain type of species of crayfish, or a crawdaddy, however you want to call it, that has like a certain type of resistance to cold weather. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that part just because all I really know is like New York and the Northeast. But that's one little thing I found while walking steelhead streams is that crayfish do stay out. And I always see them early too. Like,
I think green pumpkin?
Yeah, they're green pumpkin and they'll have a little bit of blue in them.
Cool. Oh, man, that's so neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually kind of like the underbelly that's got like the lightish blue to them.
Yeah.
Or like the pinchers.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, the ones out west, they're typically like the darker red. You know, you have like red ones, or they're in when it's cold out still, they'll be before the molt, they'll have like a pretty hefty shell and pretty dark, pronounced black with like red dots. At least on like Lake Pyramid and whatnot. He says, "Am I familiar with Casitas?" Yes, I love Casitas. I've fished many tournaments there. Yeah, it's that's a great springtime bait. That's a good pick, Bailey.
Heck yeah, Matty, you're up, man. What's next for you?
Ooh, jerk bait.
I saw that coming. Someone was gonna have it.
Yeah, without hesitation. If I said it first, everyone would have been like, "Yeah, duh." But like, I figured to like kind of suspend it. Pun intended.
Yeah.
Um, I'm on fire tonight, guys.
Roll the highlight with film, right?
But like, I would say the +1 first, then I would say the regular, and then the +2. Um, +2 definitely has its place, but the +1 always has its place. You can fish it shallow, you can fish it deep. Depends on the line size and then also your hooks. It's a great pre-spawn bait. You can trigger uh, big staging females to want to eat out of brush piles off of logs. You can use it as a search bait to draw out fish. If they're smallmouth and they're aggressive feeding and they're just trying to swipe at stuff, they're going to kill it. It's such a fun bait to fish because again, it's a power fishing technique. You can actively cast it and move it. You can also sweep it. You can crank it. There's a bunch of different things that you can do with a traditional style jerk bait. And for me, it's just the Mega Bass fishing 110. And yeah, like I fished a lot of balsa style jerk baits or rip baits when I was smaller. In Hawaii, and also like some Rapala, like some good old Rapala Twitch baits or whatnot. But then the technology now with just the way that hard baits are made and the way that you're actually able to make a perfectly balanced suspending bait, it's pretty deadly. And so I would say that is a must have for the springtime for me.
Now, do you swap the treble hooks right away, or do you keep the stock Mega Bass trebles there?
I will switch them out during the tournament, and when I'm pre-fishing, I usually will just, when I'm trying to figure out which color they're on, then I'll just go through my box and I'm like, like
Share what hooks are on them.
yeah, Matt, like just going through like the list, and then once they start eating it, and then I can see how they're eating it, and then from there I'll make a hook adjustment for the tournament. Just so I'm not really going through the good hooks during practice. Not to say that the Mega Bass hooks aren't good, but you have to, in my opinion, I think you have to be utilizing 8 to 10 pound tests for those hooks to be really effective. And not a lot of guys like to fish a $20 jerk bait on 8 to 10 pound test. And yeah,
I throw it on 10.
Yeah, like yeah, definitely. Like I if it's clear water, I'm throwing it on 10, and then if there's some bigger fish, I'll throw it on 12 and up to 14. And that's something that I think is it's not bad. It doesn't hinder, especially if you're fishing it with a snap. It doesn't hinder the movement too much of the bait. But yep.
Now that's a question I have for you. If you throw like a snap on the front of it, right, instead of the O-ring or whatever you'd call this, the swivel or whatever, what snap do you use and what size?
Yeah, good question. I use a decoy snap, and I believe it's maybe it's I don't know. I don't want to give you a number and just be horribly wrong, and then everyone goes out and buys a 3 and be like, "It's a 300-pound snap. Why are you giving me this crap?"
Fair enough.
So I would, get a couple, and it doesn't hurt to have it because they're great for, I use them on poppers. I use them on glide baits. I use them on, it helps movement. And it doesn't restrict movement on a lot of different moving baits where you want to have freedom to swing. Yeah. Chris Flay, if I am missing my old boat or getting accustomed to a new one, the new one I'm extremely accustomed to now, and I'm very spoiled. I'm very spoiled. And like, it's kind of ridiculous on how, I am excited to go back. I'll be in California for a little bit next week, and I'm plan on taking out my old boat just to run it. And so I'm excited to just fish it, but it is going to feel like just different. No, it will feel like home because it's obviously like where my heart is, but it will compare to like the Cadillac that I've grown very accustomed to. It's been awfully nice.
Yeah, it'll feel like when Andy lets me run his boat, and then the next day I go out on my kayak. It's got to be similar. Yeah.
I'll see you guys in 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like Andy runs across the lake. Yeah. Oh gosh. If there was $1 for every time that Andy and our friend group teases me about the kayak.
It's an incredible fish catching floating mobile. That I don't. It's good stuff. As long as you can get out there with it, that's all that matters.
Oh man, don't hold back, buddy. Let it rip.
Oh no, nothing else, dude. I'll be out there with my board shorts on a stand-up paddleboard, and like they're like, "Don't you get a bass boat?" I'm like, "Yeah, but this is way more challenging and fun."
Love it.
Matty Wong on live coverage on a paddleboard in Lake Chickamauga.
Throwing a glide bait and getting towed around.
Yeah, right.
Two guys on the paddleboard, one with a camera and Matty on the nose.
Yeah,
balance it out.
Yeah, a cameraman comes down to the dock and is like ready to get on his boat and sees the paddleboard. He goes, "This is your ride today, bud."
Your Yeti bag is actually our flotation device, so please bring it.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Andy, what's your next one?
All right, so I hate to beat the dead drum here, but Matty, so now I'm moving into like largemouth baits, and it's all water dependent for me. So the first thing I pick up as soon as I go largemouth fishing, depending on the body of water, is going to be a jerk bait. In the morning, I like to start with like a 110 because it is a more of a slower bait for me. You can fish it faster, but I don't like it so much as a rip bait. I have found 2 others like that fit the more of a quicker action for me that I need. So I'll start with a 110 when the water is like 42 to 45 degrees. And as it warms up in the day, Bailey got me on the Stunna. I caught some really good smallmouth on this already. But when it starts to get in the upper 40s, I found a really good jerk bait is the Jackal Re-Range because you can work it a lot faster and it reacts really well. So slow, methodical fishing, 110 on 10-pound test. Stunna on 12-pound test, and I can fish it a little bit quicker, I found, because it slow sinks. And then the Re-Range, I really like to work it, and it gets a lot of bites that way. Yeah. And that was just experimenting from last year to this year. If I'm smallmouth fishing entirely, I don't have it up here with me, but it's a 110 +1 junior on the Great Lakes. They just chew that dang thing.
Yeah. That's a great bait. I would say to make a little adjustment, if you wanted to fish a slow sinking +1, or even the +1 junior, what you do for the junior, you typically can change out the hooks to a size 6, but I'll put 5s on it.
Yeah.
And for the +1, instead of using 5s, I'll use 4s on the front and the back, and that will actually give it a little slow sink as well. So
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no, the Stunna and the Re-Range are both incredible jerk baits as well. Tricky.
And then I don't know if I'll take heat for this, but I did watch a kid in my boat on Monday smash them on the 13 fishing one, I believe it was, the Loco or whatever. Just absolutely just when they wanted it really aggressive, he was crushing them.
I've actually heard that's pretty. I've heard a few people say that.
Yeah.
Now.
So I was like, "Oh, I've never seen that before." And he had the most heinous color I've ever seen in my life. And he was, I think he caught. I think Andy, the other Andy that I referred to earlier, caught like 8 and 8 casts at one point when the jerkbait bite turned on, and I got like 1 or 2 over like an hour.
Wow.
So yeah,
interesting.
I was like, "This is neat."
Yeah, you're like, do you have an extra one?
Yeah, I was like, great, now I have to spend more money. That's where my thought. And I was like, the jerkbait bite will be done soon until like the end of May anyways, until I start smallmouth fishing. So
This is the part of bass fishing that I appreciate so much, but also hate at the same time. Because like if they're eating one jerk bait and not eating the other, it's like I get so frustrated with that. Like when I go and I'll throw a specific jerk bait and try different colors on it, can't get bit on it, and I come back to the ramp and the guy goes to the same stretch and goes, "Yeah, I caught him on a jerk bait." But they're like, "Oh, you got to throw this brand. This brand's way better than the other one."
Yeah.
And you just get so pissed because there's like 5 different jerk baits they tell you to use in different situations. And it's like at that point, it goes back to like our color conversation that Andy and I always have, where all I have is green pumpkin, black and blue, and white, and that's just about it. And if people go like, it's got to be purple flake with blue flake and green pumpkin, and I'm like,
GLX, Cotton Wagasaki, and Spawn Cherry, the only 2 color jerk baits you need, right? Like,
And everything else, just throw away.
Yeah. That's my favorite when guys say that, like, oh, this is the only color you need. Like,
yeah, dude, I hate that. It's like, you know what? Let the fish won that day. I don't care. Like, it's just like,
I will throw this bone out there. The one jerkbait color I found to be like most consistent in all light conditions out of the Megabass line is Itto Natural. That color just gets chowed, and Western Clown for smallmouth. No matter if it's sunny, cloudy, windy, those 2 colors always get bit for me when smallmouth fishing.
Yeah, for sure. I think
really
just
good.
being visual feeders, right? Just seeing that Western Clown, they're like,
Yeah, for whatever reason, they freaking and that the Megabass one is translucent too. When you hold it up to light, it's good. It's a good color.
ooh, little tricks of the trade and things I need to put on the order list when I go up north.
Sorry. And nobody throws Western Clown over here for whatever reason in Buffalo area. No
Wonderful.
I don't see anybody throw clown. I've tried it too. I can't get bit on it.
Only smallmouth and Lake Erie will eat it in the Niagara River. Just throwing it out there. It's the only place I can ever get them to bite it.
Because they'll eat anything that moves past them.
There's days that's all they'll eat. Remember, I'm a tinkerer, Bailey. I have more colors in my box than green pumpkin, black and blue, and white.
I know you do. This is why we have this argument.
When it comes to, only when it comes to jerk baits and crankbaits, I'll run more than those colors. In top water.
There's been times where actually, Matty, you'll appreciate this because we were talking earlier about like the signs that nature give you right when you're on the water. There's times where I will watch Andy go down and do what he was talking about earlier, flip rocks. Like he'll walk down to the ramp, flip some rocks around, look around. And he goes, I saw this crawdad had a little bit of like this color in it. We got to get this color like, with markers or whatever. And I'm like, dude, just throw green pumpkin. You're going to get bit. Like, stop. Like, yeah, he's that much of a tinkerer. He'll go.
I like it. I'm into it.
Dip the craws just in a tiny bit of orange, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, yep, see, it works.
If you look, I just stuck one. Yeah.
There's a little bit of orange in the eyeball of the craw.
Got painted out.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if you're mocking me or actually enjoying this.
Yeah, both.
Fair enough.
No, dude, it's legit, man. I think, subtle colors in nature. There's just times where a little blue vein or a little red vein will be the difference of like, for instance, I caught fish on a drop shot this week. None of them that helped me during the tournament, but I went through like 4 or 5 different worm colors, and then I went back to Margarita Mutilator and got bit again. And I'm like, why did I even change?
When in doubt, always fish margarita, whatever it's called, M&M. I always call it M&M because I can't pronounce it. So Margarita Mutilator.
Margarita Mutilator. It's
tongue tied.
Margarita Mutilators. Yeah, so for people that don't know the story about that color, there's a lake in California called Santa Margarita.
Okay.
And that place is where that color got originated. And it's the Margarita Mutilator because they absolutely destroy it on that lake and the rest of the country.
Heck yeah. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
A random thing.
Yeah. Well, cool. Keep the whole bait deal going for my 4th one, because somebody's got to throw it out there, because it's one where I've heard some people say it, that the chatterbait's taken over and it's kind of been a quote unquote forgotten bait, even though everyone and their mother owns one. I still think it's definitely making a resurgence back to the competitive field. Not that it's ever left Jason Christie's boat, But I am going with the spinnerbait.
Love spinner baiting.
love
I almost brought one with me, but I couldn't because it's so situational for me.
Spinnerbait has always been an absolute confidence for me. This one specifically is, I think it's the accent. It's either it's one of the Jacob Wheeler ones. I can't remember he's got like 5 different styles. I just look at the blades and that's what determines what I throw. But I think a spinnerbait is one that is completely, you could use it in clear water, you can use it muddy water, you can use it shallow, and there's definitely ways you can throw it deep. Ways that people don't really think to throw it. I think it's a lot more versatile than people give it credit for. There's times, especially in the spring, when I have some deep fish that are moving up to those major pre-spawn areas that they're down in like 12 to 15, where you throw on an ouncer and you let that thing tick bottom. And that's some of the best bites you can have in terms of 20-pound fluoro, and they rip the rod out of your hand. Awesome. But I think the most fun way possible to fish this bait, just like a kid in a candy store, is getting up shallow, that nice warming, like dirtier water, throwing it around timber and like shallow cover. And that is addicting. It's hard to put it down when that bite's going. Yeah.
Fun. I love it. And about another week or so, if it stays warm, there's a little reservoir around here that I just go and throw a spinnerbait at for like 8 hours. You don't catch any big ones. It's just an addicting, fun bite.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Dude, spinnerbait bite is hard. Like, chatterbait bite's fun, but a spinnerbait bite is like, it's a different bite. I don't know. It's really intriguing, especially in the pre-spawn. It's a really, really killer bait, and in that murky water, and also, I mean, pre and post spawn, like just recently on Cherokee, the spinnerbait was a big player there. Guys were just winding it out, like slow rolling it deep when it was sheet class calm, and a lot of guys caught their limits on that. So that's definitely a good one to hit.
Sorry to cut you off, Matty, but real quick, I was just gonna say, you mentioned the glide bait being such a visual bait too. The spinnerbait can also be a visual bait, where you especially got that up shallow and that flash. You see that thing just get wrecked. You almost see it happening before you feel it.
Oh, dude, it's so cool when you just watch your blades going, and then you just see like flash, boom, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Good. Well, sorry. Carry on, Matty. I didn't mean
you're good. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna swing over to the comment section and go through a couple of these real quick. Am I working on a signature bait with any particular brand? Mr. Higgs asks. And yes, actually, I'm going to be doing a limited release with Bastrix, and it's called the Wonggill. You guys are hearing it now for the first time. I haven't publicly put it out yet, and it's I believe we're going to release it on Saturday, and it is going to be a gorgeous bluegill imitation hollow body boot tail bait that would be great on a flashy swimmer, on an exposed hook, or even if you want to, rig it as a line through, or as even a swim jig trailer. Or what I've been doing is I'll take the Uoze jig head or the swim jig Uoze, and then actually trim the skirt off of it almost entirely, and then use that as a jig head because a really stout hook and a really cool looking jig head. Second one, ever hang out with surfers on the North Shore like GOB and Florence brothers? Yeah, so I know Jamie. I used to freedive with him a little bit. I grew up surfing with all those guys. I used to compete when watching John was still a little kid, and so I'm a little bit older than John, so we weren't competing against each other. But a lot of those guys I'm friends with, like little Seth Moniz, who's on tour right now, is my buddy's younger brother. So yeah, that's a thing. So yes,
dude, there needs to be, like, in a few years, however long it takes you to win a blue trophy, there needs to be a documentary of all the damn things you've done up until that blue trophy.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, that's definitely one of the goals, man. I want to win one of those things pretty bad, and you know, I'm just grateful to have a very adventure-filled life.
Dude, you
And
have like the most badass resume out of the elite field, all the random stuff you've done.
oh man, thank you, dude. I
You're
appreciate
like the Dos Equis of the Elite Series.
it.
The most interesting surfer in the world.
Like, but with no beard, and I can't grow one, and I'll just go, I'm like twist like my 3 chin hairs together. Yeah.
Love it.
But, yeah. Am I next?
Yeah, you're up. You're up, and then we're then Andy, and then we got our last bait of the night, and we're gonna let you go relax.
And we
I
got
know it's your day off finally after being grinding for a few months.
yeah. No, it's I'm ready for, and tomorrow I got an interview in the morning, and never stops. It never stops.
You got another job coming up?
Bassmaster. I'm doing a thing with them. They're having me on for the whole VMC monster bag for
Nice.
chick, which is really cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I'm stoked about it. Let's see. I talked about glide bait, talked about jerk bait, talked about the vibrating jig. You talked about a jig. I would say a flipping jig is, I mean, it's going to be kind of close to the football jig deal in the same kind of category. But in the pre-spawn in the spring, Bass, one of their favorite pieces of cover to stage up on, to use as routes, to ambush bait and is wood. Whether it's a dock, whether it's a lay down, whether it's a stump, wood is just a great cover that, and it's one of my favorite things to fish. It reminds me a lot of what I grew up doing, and a flipping jig is a great way to put a giant in the boat. Iconelli caught a 10-8 in practice here, flipping a jig. So no one also probably knows about that either.
No.
And some inside stuff. And he caught an absolute giant, and it kind of pushed him in an area to want to keep flipping the jig around, because obviously when you catch a 10-8 in practice, you're kind of keyed in on something. Jason Christie, flipping his jig around. And so that's I would say that's one of them. Yeah, that's a good one. So I'm gonna, since we already kind of said that, I'm gonna just skip to the last one for me, which is gonna be like a mag draft booty bait. Oh, look at Bailey's. I'm gonna get to it before you say it. Gotcha. Oh, look at there.
There she is.
So, I think Jack Belt asked what glide bait I was throwing. So yeah, it was the 180. It was the ice slide. I also was throwing the Storm. So don't tell Megabass. No, they're cool. Anyone's looking to get a cheap glide bait, and this is just like, I'm not affiliated with them at all, and probably shouldn't be plugging it, but it's a great one. Brandon Polinick put a lot of time into that bait, and I think it's a extremely underrated and underutilized bait, and it catches them. But so does the ice slide. So I hold equal confidence in both baits. I won regionals on an ice slide, and I have footage of that. You can go back and check a look at that on my Capture Fish channel, and that's the proof for that pudding. Yeah, I would say the mag draft is, again, a visual bait that you can fish in clear water when the conditions are sheet calm. It can also be windy out, and you can target giants if it's windy and in a mess. You can fish flats, you can fish bluff walls, you can fish cover, wood, trees, you can skip it under docks. A little tip that I'll give you guys. There's a couple different ways that I like to rig it. That's a little different. Like Zaldane's trick was like, well, you take one of the trebles and then you bend it up and it makes like this finger, and you can like put it in like, and I'm like, that's one way to rig it. But for me, I like having all 3 trebles still intact. What I've been doing is I've been putting the short shank Gamakatsu EWG treble hook, and so it's a EWG style treble, and I'll replace the stock treble, and that way it doesn't have it's a little bit more like weedless or snaggy less than the stock regular round bends, and when they get it, they ain't coming off. And most of the time, so I've seen a couple mods out there where like I think Blockit put out something where if you take a like a barrel swivel and then you've got a split ring and you put another barrel swivel, then you could attach the treble hook and let it sit further back. So if like they're short striking it, so like if they're eating the bait but they're only getting the tail of it, you can extend the hook back a little bit further. I think that's a great it's a great mod for like the 8-inch. I would also say it does work on the 6, but most of the time with the 6, if you're targeting fish that are 2 pound or bigger, they usually hit it head first. And most of the time, a lot of your hook rash or stuff, or the way that the fish or the bait looks at the end of a day, you look at the head and the head looks completely smoked. Yeah, I would say the mag draft and also just a soft hollow body style swim bait like a Bass Strix 7-inch paddle tail is another sleeper. It's something that I don't say anyone really talks about on tour, but it's something that a lot of people do throw. Is that that bigger Bass Strix? They are tricky to get, but they definitely catch them. Skip super well, and on a bigger EWG monster hook with like a screw lock, it just, the head moves like a mag draft, the tail kicks like a mag draft. You don't have to worry about doing operation with the mag draft to turn it into like a freestyle bait. It's just comes ready to rig. Yeah, that would be my number 5.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I think to add that, and we'll end it with Andy. For me, and I want to ask you a question actually off of this, but for me, the 6-inch mag draft is just like a simple bite getter where you can fill a limit, but also you have a chance at some bigger fish on it. The 8-inch for me is to one, either bring out bigger fish, or two, just to straight up get a bigger bite, because I've noticed 2-pounders will try to eat the 8, but they have a lot harder time obviously getting hooked. But like it seems to be like 4 pounds and up, they are able to get that 8-inch. That's one thing I like about the 8. But I've yet to, at least it might be just because I'm in the north and don't want to throw a 10-inch bait. But have you found a place to throw the 10 over the 8?
Yeah, if you're trophy hunting.
Okay.
I wouldn't throw the 10 in tournament per se. But I've had 2-pound fish try to choke a 10-inch.
Good God.
That's almost as big as them.
Yeah, I've had them actually eat it all the way up to the treble hook and like not get a hook. And I'm like looking down, I'm like, you silly, stupid bass. Like,
this looks yummy.
I'm going to end up picking you up when you're like 8 pounds and pulling like a 4-pound crappie out of your mouth. It's like, there's certain things with these fish that they just want to kill certain things. And it's really entertaining, especially like this week I had numerous fish come out that were just like a couple inches bigger than the glide bait and absolutely smoke it. And it just doesn't make sense.
You're in my home.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of my tree. Yeah, no, it's Mr. Higgs. He's caught 18 bucks. Yeah, it's a cheap bait and it gets bit, man. I don't know. That's something. That's something there. Split rings, any type of upgraded split rings are great. And then I typically use just a EW, like a regular. So here's a little trick too. So in the wintertime, bass will commit to a glide. When they eat it, they actually eat it. So you can use an EWG style hook during the winter. In the pre-spawn, they tend to want to bump it and not really eat it as much. And so I will go to a more round bend style hook whether it's the it's the larger gummies, whether the I think they're either the ones or the twos. And then another one that's kind of a tricky one to use is the decoy quad hook. They're kind of hard to get, but it's also another good one to use. They do bend out, so heads up there. Don't be wrenching in 8-pounders and trying to boat flip them. But you'll still, if they have the bait good, you can still get them in the boat. But then it comes with the territory. Get ready to either have the most memorable epic fish catch of your life or one of the biggest heartbreaks. So
well, good to know.
Yeah.
All right, Andy. Wrap us
So,
up.
so number 4, since it's been mentioned like 3 times already by Bailey and Matty, is a switchblade by Queen or a jackhammer. 3/8 and 1/2 ounce is pretty much the only sizes I use. But last year I really got into throwing rattle baits, like traps, when the water gets to be like 48 to 54 degrees, wherever there's grass or shell beds. Like yo-yoing it or straight retrieve or ripping it. That's what I caught the 6.3 on today, was a TN60. Yeah.
Ooh.
So was on a trap, and I got another 5-pound smallie on it, yo-yoing it through a shell bed that had like some type of crib, rock, wood structure in the middle of it. So yeah, it was fun.
That's awesome. That's a fun bite. That's really
ripping up, and as it's on the fall on a slack line, I'm like, oh, I know what that is. You lean into them, and I'm like, yeah, that's a big one. I hooked 4, and this is the one thing I hate about traps is I feel like it's a low landing percentage bait because they can just throw them easily. I lost 2 other really big fish today on the trap.
What hooks?
4 I hooked. Oh, I literally pulled it out of the package and threw it. I didn't change the hooks, but that's my fault. Yeah, but usually I go to like an owner short shank, like ST, whatever the ST36 is around bend, but they make a short shank one too that I really like that I just found. So,
like the Z wire or something like that they got a new one out.
I think it was like an STX38. It was just a short shank and super fine needle.
Zoe wire. That's what
Zoe wire. Yeah, I haven't used those ones yet, but the one thing I don't like about the jackalbait, I don't know if you can see it, the back hook is smaller than the front one. So I don't know. I have to experiment with it because it's literally the first time I ever threw this. I am almost always throwing a 2-tap red eye shad. I love the 2-tap. That one. Yeah. And then I'll put like a size 4 ST36 on. And that works really well. But this guy gets bit really well. So
I have 3 of them in my tackle box, that exact bait, and they are so chewed that you can't even tell what color they are.
Yeah.
What I do with that bait is I actually use an EWG style hook with that, and my hookup ratio goes way up. When they are slapping at it and not getting it, then a round bend is going to be a lot better. But usually if they're getting it off of shell beds, which I've been finding in the past couple of places, that when you're fishing the lipless and like murky, dirty water, when largemouth eat it, they get it. And it's not really like a slap. But then smallmouth, I think that's something that I don't have too much experience throwing lipless for smallmouth. So it's just a different.
It's funny you say that. The smallmouth that I caught on at the 5-pounder, it was like hooked 7 different ways in the mouth, like got it really good. The big largemouth that I lost literally had it down its throat, and when he came up to the boat, he just opened his mouth and it shot out. Like just was never hooked. And then the other one was like T-boned and hooked basically on like both sides of the face. Like I don't know how he got the TN60 in there, but it was hooked like on the inside, like on the bottom, like all the way across. Just choked. And the other one, when I yo-yoed it, I leaned into him and I got like 3 head shakes and it just came off. So that one I'm sure was probably a big smallmouth, but who knows?
Yeah. And the rod that you're using is a pretty soft rod.
Yeah, it's a 7.3 medium heavy composite.
Yeah.
So I can rip it out of grass if I want, but it's got the parabolic bend all the way through it.
And like on 12-pound or something.
Yeah, I was throwing it. Yeah, I was actually throwing it, I think, on 14 or 15.
Yeah.
I kind
Nice.
of want to try this whole trend that's, I believe it originated, I can't remember the guy's name, but it started on Gunnersville of using like 7.8s to 7.11 medium heavies for traps. And they're having a lot of success with hookup ratio with it. So that's one I'm trying to get out of that like 7.2 to 7.4 and start experimenting with those longer rods for traps. But what I'm curious with that Jackal is because there's a lot of traps that are known for either good at ripping it or they're as like a straight reel.
Yeah.
Which one is that? Is a Jackal more of a your kind of yo-yo type bait or is it a straight reel?
Today I found they ate it better when I yo-yoed it. I could really feel it vibrate and pulse really well. And what I find like with the 2-tap on the red eye shed, if I yo-yo it, sometimes the way that it's built and the keel on it, it'll actually foul. I had zero fouling on the TN70 and the TN60 there. When I rip, I could feel it all the way through. Yep. And then you can feel it almost shimmy on the way down. You can watch your line shimmy with it.
I would have to agree with you. If I'm on a bite where it's a yo-yo bite, and not a straight retrieve, I'll go with the red eye or the Mega Bass lipless has actually been a really solid one for me. The craw color, I think it's the stealth craw. It looks black and red to your eye, and then if you hold it up, it's actually translucent. That disc knocker, the Jackal one for me is almost entirely just
it's an incredible sound to that disc knocker.
Yeah, it's a good yo-yo bait for sure.
Yeah, and one thing that we won't talk about right now, but I think calls for a future show, Andrew, is you talked about how you only will throw 3/8 to half-ounce chatterbaits or bladed jigs, vibrating jigs, however everyone loves to call them. We need to do a show talking about ounce and ounce and a quarter chatterbaits because I throw the heck out of those things.
Yeah.
So we'll save that for All right, Matty.
Like Matty's coming back.
He's coming back. Yeah. Well, but we're gonna wrap it up because Matty, I know you said today was your day off, and we seriously appreciate you taking the time out to come on and chat with us and drop some more juice.
The true hero of the night is Matty Wong.
Oh no, stop, guys! I'm stoked. I'm always pumped to hang out with you guys, and I'm always pumped to talk fishing. So thank you for reaching out and having me on. It's always a good time. Good hang with you boys.
Heck yeah, buddy! We're looking forward to you coming up north and hit us up if you need anything. But we will let you go and get some rest. But dude, we'll talk to you soon. We appreciate it.
Of course. You guys be well. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. And au revoir.
Jazz hands.
Love it.
La!
It's going out with a song.
See you, man.
All right, boys.
I think those little jazz hands.
That's right. It's that LA Hollywood showboy and Matty. Which folks, I mean, we've had him on shows before. But if you did not know, if you're a TV fan and you watch Hawaii 5-0, Matty Wong has starred in a episode of Hawaii 5-0 as like some dumb stoner kid getting arrested. So
oh geez, that's hilarious.
Yeah, we'll have to find the clip and post it on social just to tease him. But he provided us with some good clips to post to social tonight. But I know some of the baits that we showed tonight were kind of like almost obvious stuff, but we tried to kind of highlight what's unique with those more popular baits. But there's definitely some stuff in here tonight that maybe some people overlook for this time of year. Not that this time of year it's too hard to get bit, because there's a reason people make fun of people that fish in the spring called KVD season, because it genuinely is easy to get bit in the spring. It's a fun time of year to fish, but there's definitely certain things you can throw and things that you can do to try to hone in on bigger bites. And that's one thing we were trying to bring out tonight. I think we did that, Andy.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, and the one big thing about like the obvious bait thing, the reason why they're obvious is because they work.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like obvious baits in the spring is like community holes in the summer. You don't want to go there. You don't want to throw it. But if you go there, you're probably going to catch fish. And it's the same way with springtime baits. You might want to do something off the wall to try to catch a giant, but if you just want to catch fish, you could throw any of these baits that we just talked about and get bit while doing it if the conditions are right for it.
Heck yeah. Well, dude, I think tonight's show was freaking awesome. Folks, what we'll try to do, if any of these baits are on Omnia Fishing, and if you guys want to, scoop them up, get a discount on them, we will drop them in the show notes once the show is over. That way you guys can head over and do a quick link over to snatch them up. There was some stuff on here that was not talked about, or that was talked about that was not on Omnia Fishing. And we'll see if we can provide some, where you can go find them. But we showed them in the show. If you guys have any questions, obviously reach out and we'll help you find some baits. But dude, I think tonight was awesome. Thanks again to Mr. Matty Wong for joining us. If you guys are not following him on social media, you definitely should. His social links are provided in the show description for YouTube and MP3. Definitely recommend subscribing to his YouTube channel called Capture Fish, where he literally films all of his tournaments. You guys should definitely check that out because some of it's really good. But Andy, anything for the folks before we tune out here tonight?
Stay tuned. We're going to catch a 7-pounder this year. I have a feeling Bailey's already got his, but we need to get a 7-pound small. Last year. I have yet to hit 7 on the largemouth side. So when I am not guiding, that is my goal, is to try and catch a 7-pound largemouth this year. So
it's going to happen.
It's going to be fun. I thought I had it today because the one I lost on the trap was bigger than the one I landed. So I was like, just
boy.
About cried. Yeah. Right at the boat, opened its mouth. And I was like, Jeff, watch out.
Why don't you just stab me in the heart? And
yeah.
Good God. Stab me in the heart and push me off the boat, leave me to die. That's what it feels like at the time.
It is what it is. And then the next cast, I got that 5-pound smallie. So it was kind of cool. Yeah.
Sounds like you got some juice flowing is what I'm hearing. Some good vibes to start the guide year.
Except for if I stop losing all these dang big fish. I think in the last 2 days I've lost like 12 or 13 fish.
Swap your dang hooks, would you, boy? I mean, you're using stock hooks.
No, like I'm talking about like swim baits. I'm losing them. Like what jerk baits? They're just
because you poured the head. That's why it's your fault.
Probably. So, well, you know what it is. I am a big proponent of throwing a swim bait on a bait caster, and I've been throwing them on a spinning rod this week just to try it. Going the old Bailey method, and I just don't think I have the right rod for it.
Where are you throwing it
on? I threw it on the Kumara, which is a little softer than I tried it on the 724 Douglas X Matrix, which was not the rod for it. So I lean into them, the rod would bend into the handle, and they would come off. I'm like, yep, that's not going to work. So I think if I wanted to throw it on like a longer spinning rod, like a 7.6 Fantasista would be the rod to use because you can really get into them and lean on them. So
that rod is sick because it's so fast, but it has such a good backbone, being that it's a 7.6, that like you don't have to set the hook. I mean, you can obviously give them a quick jab, but like if you have your reel set right, let that motion of you leaning that fish eating that bait. Obviously, unless they, if they pull or if they push that bait, you have to catch up to them. But it's really easy if you have all of your
longer rod. Yep.
Yeah. Longer rod, and you can catch up to them and then let your drag do the work. Because especially those heads you poured, that 5313, it's gonna poke them good, especially with that rod.
What I found is I had to like cinch my drag all the way down and literally reel and hit them as hard as I could. But then I was breaking like the line at the knot.
That's weird. I mean, you shouldn't have to do that. That's really weird because I feel like for me, like a single swim bait on a spinning rod is a surefire way to never lose fish.
I lost. How many did I lose on Monday? I lost 4 on it on Monday, and then I lost 2 more today on it. So
that's
6.
Weird. It's got to be a rod.
Yeah.
I mean, what pound test line?
10-pound braid, 8-pound fluoro.
Yeah, you shouldn't be losing those things.
I know. That's why I'm
weird.
like, what the hell? That's why I'm just chalking it up to the rod. So I just don't think it was the right tool for the application. And that's why I like to tinker and experiment, because I can learn lessons now that pay off in the long end. And I learned not to use that rod for single swim baiting. And I will go back to my bait caster so I can hit them as hard as I want with my 12-pound fluoro, and I'll never lose a fish again. So
I love how we're polar opposites in this
Yeah.
thing.
oh,
It's
100%.
amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Friday, guys, it's going to be Andy and I talking about some actually some specific topics coming up. But one thing we'll highlight is Lake Eufaula that I'm heading down to. I'm literally leaving Friday afternoon. Headed down there. I'm actually going to link up with one of our good buddies, Mr. John King, and do a little fishing Saturday in Kentucky.
So jealous. I can't wait to see him in June.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to go hit up one of his favorite honey holes in Kentucky, do a little filming for the Be the Fish YouTube channel, which if you guys have not checked out Andy and I's personal YouTube channels to kind of put out more fishing content for you guys, so we're not bombarding this platform with different stuff so you guys can't keep up. That's also down in the show descriptions that you guys can check out and subscribe if you'd like. That's also where Chasing Hardware will live. So for folks that liked episode 1 and 2, make sure you guys head over there, because episode 3 and 4 will be filming or starting to be filmed come Friday, because traveling down there, practice next week, and then the Hobie BOS next Saturday and Sunday on Lake Eufaula in Alabama. So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to be camping out. So all my buddies that were, I actually have friends competing, but my buddies that I usually stay with are not going to this event. So dude, I am camping in a tent solo in Alabama. Going to be snuggling with the tarantulas and snakes and gators.
I will say a quick prayer for you, because it's nadir season, and I wish that upon nobody. So, and hopefully that's all happening now. It seems like, and prayers to all the people down there in like Arkansas and Oklahoma and Central Texas. They're going through a pretty bad tornado outbreak here the last couple days, from what I've seen in the news. So stay safe while you're down there, big guy. And
I gotta say that, man. Why you gotta put that juju on me?
I'm not putting any juju on you.
Dude,
safe. Dude, let's talk about your car travels real fast, all right? Like,
oh, we're not gonna talk about that yet. We're saving that for a not so serious show. We're gonna expose that.
Like, you need all the good juju you can get.
That's right.
So
I'm
just looking out for you, bud.
I know. For folks that are like questioning, like, what the hell is he talking about? Basically, long story short is I need a truck, but we will disclose the full story soon. I promise. It just needs to be prepared so we tell it right and give it its justice.
I wasn't even like going to that story. I was talking about like the one trip you went down to the Bassmaster Classic.
Oh, when I get rear-ended?
You get rear-ended. I feel like something always happens to your poor Ultima wherever you go. That
you know what? That Ultima has been so good to me. It's been beaten to crap, and it still runs. And I've never had. Oh God, I said never. You knock on wood here real quick.
So you're giving yourself the juju.
I know I am.
Knock on your head, boy.
Giving you crap for it, and I'm the one to give him that bad juju. Either way, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that whole shebang, we get ourselves a new vehicle here soon. We shall see. We'll see. But either way, that's gonna be a fun show on Friday. For you also tune into that one. And then, guys, as always, if you listen on MP3, please leave a rating and review, whether you listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whichever you're able to leave a rating and review. It helps us out big time. But Andy, ready to wrap it out?
I gotta go cover my boat before it torrentially rains and get all my rods put away. So yes.
All right, folks, we appreciate y'all, and we will see you guys on Friday.